The encounter. The Artemis drifted silently through the void, its obsidian hull absorbing rather than reflecting the distant starlight. To any observer, the vessel would have appeared small, almost insignificant against the vastness of space. At just under 500 meters in length, it was dwarfed by most military vessels in the known galaxy. Yet there was something unsettling about its presence, something that defied conventional analysis. Captain Elena Reyes stood on the command deck, her weathered face illuminated by the soft blue glow of holographic displays. 30 years in the Earth Defense Force had carved lines into her features, but her eyes remained sharp, calculating. She was the last person the Admiralty would have chosen for a diplomatic mission, but this wasn't diplomacy. This was a message. "Status report," she said, her voice steady despite the weight of her mission. Lieutenant Commander Takashi glanced up from his station. "We've reached the outer boundary of the Nexari expansion zone, Captain. Long-range sensors are detecting their fleet. Over 2,000 vessels, arranged in standard attack formation. They've established a blockade at the Epsilon corridor." Elena nodded. Intelligence had been correct. The Nexari, an aggressive species that had spent the last decade systematically conquering and subjugating every civilization in the Orion Spur, had finally set their sights on human space. 3 human colony worlds had already gone dark. Diplomatic channels had been met with silence. The Nexari only respected strength, and humanity was about to show them exactly what that meant. "They've detected us," Communications Officer Garcia announced. "Receiving transmission." The main view screen flickered to life, revealing a Nexari war commander. The alien's scaled face filled the screen. 4 yellow eyes blinking in asynchronous patterns, mandibles clicking in what humans had learned was a sign of amusement or contempt. "Human vessel," the Nexari hissed, universal translator struggling with the complex harmonics of their language. "You trespass in Nexari space. Your species has been judged unworthy of independence. Surrender your ship and prepare for integration into the Dominion, or be destroyed." Elena didn't immediately respond. Instead, she studied the alien's features, noting the ceremonial scars that marked its rank and accomplishments. The Nexari were conquerors, their entire society built around the concept of strength through domination. They had never encountered a species that could truly challenge them. Until now. "War Commander," she finally said, "I am Captain Elena Reyes of the Earth vessel Artemis. I come with a message from humanity." The alien's mandibles clicked rapidly. Laughter. "One ship brings a message. Where is your fleet, human? Where are your armies? The Nexari Dominion has conquered 12 species and 300 worlds. We command thousands of warships. What message could you possibly deliver?" Elena's expression remained unchanged. "The message is simple. Leave human space. Immediately. Return to your territory and remain there. This is your only warning." For a moment, the Nexari seemed stunned into silence. Then came a sound that the translator couldn't process, something between a shriek and a roar. The war commander's 4 eyes widened, their vertical pupils contracting to thin lines. "You dare threaten the Dominion with a single vessel? Your arrogance exceeds even our intelligence reports. We will take your ship intact to study human delusion before we eradicate your species." The transmission cut off abruptly. "They're moving to intercept," Takashi reported, his fingers dancing across the tactical display. "Launching fighter squadrons. Their main battle group is adjusting course. Estimate 3 minutes until they're in weapons range." Elena turned to her science officer. "Dr. Karim?" Analysis. Dr. Samira Karim, the youngest officer on the bridge, but perhaps the most brilliant mind in the Earth Defense Force, studied her readings. "Their technology is consistent with our intelligence. Plasma-based weapons, gravitic shielding, sublight drives comparable to our conventional engines. Their numerical advantage is substantial, but technologically." She looked up, a faint smile playing on her lips. "They're children playing with sparklers, Captain." Elena nodded. "Tactical. Activate the WISP system. Communications. open a channel to the Nexari fleet. WISP active, Captain. Tactical Officer Chen confirmed. Waveform interference stealth protocol engage. The ship's exterior seemed to shimmer slightly as the quantum field generators came online. Unlike conventional stealth systems that merely bent light around a vessel, WISP operated on a fundamental level, altering the Artemis's interaction with the very fabric of space-time. The ship didn't just become invisible, it became partially out of phase with normal space. Channel open to all Nexari vessels, Garcia confirmed. Nexari fleet. Elena's voice carried no emotion, no anger, just absolute certainty. This is your final opportunity to withdraw. There will not be another. The response came immediately. Another transmission from the war commander, now standing on what appeared to be the command center of a massive dreadnought. We will display your broken vessel as a trophy on our homeworld. The alien snarled. Your colonies will feed our expansion, your resources will fuel our ships, and your survivors will serve the Dominion until the end of their pathetic lives. Elena sighed, almost imperceptibly. As you wish. Tactical, designate targets. Phased quantum torpedoes, minimal yield. Let's keep collateral damage to a minimum. Chen's fingers moved across his console. Targets designated. Firing solution ready. Fire. There was no dramatic launch, no streaking missiles or brilliant energy beams. The quantum torpedoes, operating partially outside normal spacetime, thanks to the WISP field, simply appeared inside their targets. Physics reasserted itself with catastrophic results. 5 Nexari heavy cruisers erupted simultaneously, their advanced shields useless against weapons that materialized inside them. The explosions were strangely muted. The torpedoes' yields were precisely calculated to destroy the target vessels with minimal energy waste. Stunned silence filled the Nexari command channels. No warnings, no alarms, no chance to evade. 5 capital ships gone in an instant. Before the Nexari could react, the Artemis vanished, not just from visual sensors, but from reality itself, momentarily shifting into a parallel phase state that the WISP system had been designed to access. When it reappeared seconds later, it was in the midst of the Nexari fighter screen. The fighter's targeting systems couldn't lock onto the human vessel the moment their sensors attempted to fix the Artemis position. The WISP field altered its phase state just enough to render those calculations meaningless. The human ship moved through the fighter screen untouched, while precision-guided energy pulses from its point defense grid eliminated fighter after fighter with surgical precision. They're attempting to coordinate a sphere formation, Takashi reported, watching the Nexari fleet's desperate maneuvers. Trying to ensure that no matter which way we go, we face concentrated fire. Elena nodded. Classic response to an unknown threat. Predictable. Dr. Karim, how's their communication network? Standard Tachyon-based system. Karim replied. Nowhere near as secure as they believe it to be. Initiate quantum data intrusion. Let's see how they coordinate when they can't communicate. Karim's fingers flew across her station. QDI active. Their network is surprisingly vulnerable. Inserting cascade feedback loop now. Across the Nexari fleet, communication systems began to fail. What had once been a coordinated armada devolved into isolated groups of vessels, unable to share targeting data or strategic information. Some ships began firing at empty space, their sensors feeding them false returns generated by the Artemis's electronic warfare suite. The war commander's voice cut through the chaos, broadcasting on all frequencies in increasingly desperate tones. Target the human vessel. All ships, focus fire on its last known coordinates. But the Artemis was never where they expected it to be. The WISP system allowed it to make micro-jumps, not true faster than light travel, but short-range phase shifts that made it appear to teleport across the battlefield. They're firing blind, Chen observed as thousands of energy weapons discharged simultaneously, filling space with destructive potential, but hitting nothing. Their desperation is showing, Elena said quietly. Time to escalate. Tactical, prepare the NanoVA system. Chen looked up, his expression grave. The non-localized orbital velocity accelerator was the Artemis primary weapon system, a technology so advanced that most of Earth's scientists had argued it violated fundamental laws of physics. It didn't. It simply operated according to principles those laws had yet to encompass. NanoVA system charged and ready, Captain. Targeting parameters. Elena studied the tactical display. Let's make a statement. Target their flagship. At the center of the Nexari formation loomed the war commander's vessel, a dreadnought class nearly 2 kilometers in length, bristling with weapons and surrounded by layers of defensive ships. It represented the pinnacle of Nexari military technology, a mobile fortress believed invulnerable by its creators. Target locked, Chen confirmed. NanoVA ready. Fire. The Artemis emitted a barely perceptible pulse. There was no beam, no projectile, just a ripple in space-time that propagated outward at superluminal speed, invisible to conventional sensors. Where it intersected with the Nexari flagship, physics became negotiable. The massive dreadnought didn't explode. Instead, it imploded, collapsing in on itself as localized gravity suddenly multiplied exponentially at its core. The vessel crumpled like paper, its structure folding inward until all that remained was a dense mass of compressed matter no larger than a shuttle. Silence fell across the battlefield. Message from Earth Command, Garcia said quietly. Admiral Chen wants a status report. Elena's eyes remained fixed on the tactical display, watching the Nexari fleet's formations dissolve into chaos as news of their flagship's destruction spread. Tell the Admiral the demonstration is proceeding as planned, she said, and open a channel to all remaining Nexari vessels. When the channel opened, she didn't immediately speak. She let the silence stretch, let the aliens contemplate what they had just witnessed. This was one ship, she finally said, her voice calm. One ship with limited deployment of non-military technology. Earth has 1,000 more like the Artemis, and technologies you cannot begin to comprehend. You have 1 hour to withdraw from human space. Any Nexari vessel remaining after that time will be destroyed. She signaled for the channel to be closed. And now, she said to her bridge crew, we wait. The reckoning. The Nexari response came not as a retreat but as a surge of desperate aggression. Nearly 500 vessels broke formation, accelerating toward the Artemis with weapons firing continuously, filling space with a web of destructive energy. They're attempting to saturate the area, Takashi observed. If they can't target us precisely, they'll try to ensure there's no safe space to occupy. Elena nodded. It was a logical response, if futile. Evasive pattern delta. Keep WISP at maximum efficiency. The Artemis moved in ways that defied conventional spaceflight, making sharp angular changes in direction that would have pulverized any crew not protected by advanced inertial damping fields. As it danced through the storm of energy weapons, it continued to strike with precision, quantum torpedoes appearing inside Nexari vessels and reducing them to expanding clouds of debris. Captain, Dr. Karim called out, I'm detecting unusual energy signatures from the rear echelon of their fleet. They appear to be bringing something online, something massive. Elena frowned. Intelligence had been thorough in their analysis of Nexari capabilities. There shouldn't be any surprises. Specifications. It's difficult to analyze. Multiple vessels are channeling power to a central hub. The energy readings are off the scale, possibly some kind of superweapon. As if confirming Karim's assessment, the Nexari fleet began to reorganize. The attacking vessels pulled back, forming a protective screen around a cluster of specialized ships at their center. These ships were linking together, physically connecting to form a composite structure. They're desperate, Elena observed. Whatever this is, it's their contingency plan. The war commander's second-in-command appeared on the view screen, its scales darker with what humans had learned to recognize as stress markings. Human vessel, the Nexari snarled. Your technology is impressive, but not invincible. You face the combined might of the Dominion. Our Void Splitter has destroyed entire planetary defense systems. Your single ship, no matter how advanced, cannot survive its power." Elena didn't respond to the bravado. Instead, she turned to Karim. Analysis. The science officer studied her readings. They're creating an artificially stable quantum singularity, essentially a controlled black hole, if they can direct it. She looked up, eyes wide. It could theoretically bypass our phase technology by warping space-time itself around us. "Time to completion?" Elena asked, her voice steady despite the potential threat. "Approximately 15 minutes at their current power buildup rate." Elena nodded slowly. "Then we have 15 minutes to demonstrate why this is a mistake. Lieutenant Chen, target their support vessels with NEO-VA, minimum yield." "Targeting, Captain." NEO-VA charging. The Artemis shifted position again, reappearing closer to the Nexari formation. The alien vessels responded immediately, redirecting fire toward the human ship, but their weapons found only empty space as the WISP system continued to keep the Artemis partially out of phase with normal spacetime. 4 pulses from the NOVA system struck with precision, compressing 4 Nexari support vessels into dense spheres of matter. Without those vessels channeling power to the central hub, the forming singularity became unstable. "Nexari power grid is fluctuating," Karim reported. "They're trying to compensate, but..." She was interrupted by a massive energy surge from the center of the Nexari formation. The partially formed singularity collapsed in on itself, creating a feedback loop through the connected vessels. Secondary explosions rippled through the alien fleet as power relays overloaded and containment fields failed. "They've lost control of the reaction," Karim said, her voice tight with concern. "That singularity is going to collapse catastrophically. The resulting explosion could damage their entire fleet." Elena's decision was immediate. All power to WISP. Phase shift to maximum. The Artemis shimmered and shifted almost entirely out of normal space just as the Nexari superweapon imploded. The resulting shockwave expanded outward at near light speed, tearing through hundreds of alien vessels that lacked the phase technology to avoid it. Ships were shredded by gravitational forces, their hulls twisted and torn apart like paper. When the Artemis phased back into normal space, the battlefield had transformed. Where there had once been a mighty armada, there now floated scattered groups of damaged vessels, their formations broken, their coordination shattered. "Status of the Nexari fleet?" Elena asked quietly. Takashi studied his displays. "Approximately 70% of their forces have been destroyed or disabled, Captain. The remainder are in disarray, some already beginning to retreat." Elena nodded slowly. This wasn't what she had wanted. The mission had been to demonstrate Earth's technological superiority, not to destroy the majority of the Nexari fleet. But the aliens had forced her hand with their desperate gamble. "Open a channel to all remaining Nexari vessels." When the channel opened, she spoke with quiet authority. "This is Captain Reyes of the